Okay, we are in right now. Okay, so I'm just going to start.
Yes. Oh, okay. Thank you, Catherine, for the opportunity. So today my name is Lastiko Endi Rahmantyo, or I usually call by Andy, or you can call me Andy anyway. And then I do have my friend over here, Almira Fidela and Viqi Ardaniah. English language and
Hold
literature.
on, sorry, the audio
Yes,
isn't
sorry.
working. Hold on.
My audio is not working.
Oh, never mind. Please carry on.
Oh, okay, sure. Okay. Basically, mobile games in Indonesia. It's actually very famous in Indonesia among kids and then among adults in Indonesia. And basically, we are going to talk about how, if it is integrated in the education, especially in primary and secondary schools in Surabaya, Indonesia. Surabaya is actually a big city, the second biggest city in Indonesia, and whether it is yes or no, according to the netizens' comments on the internet. So basically, we're going to talk about that. Okay, let me move further on the introduction first. So this is actually why we are carrying on this issue, because Mobile Legends is quite famous in Indonesia, and the growth of game industries also and the game revenues in Indonesia is so big. It comes, especially in Southeast Asia, it comes second from the Philippines. Philippines comes first, and then Indonesia comes second, and then it is followed by Thailand and the other countries in Southeast Asia. And one more interesting thing is that Indonesia is actually the leader in the number of downloads, accounting for 41% of all downloads in the region in the Southeast Asia. So it's quite big, and the other only takes like 60%, and it is divided into several countries. And the other thing that makes it more interesting is actually it is increasing 15% and making it the fastest growing market in the Southeast Asia. The second significance on why we are taking actually this issue is that MLBB, or Mobile Legends Battle, comes second in downloads and first in revenue. The downloads grew by 45%, with, as you can see over there, 44% of all downloads coming from Indonesia, 44% from 45 percent of increase coming from Indonesia. And on the other hand, in Thailand and Vietnam, the game held the lead in revenue, increasing by 6%. Okay, and then second one is we are trying to look at how, since we are talking about the curriculum implementation of Mobile Legends by building curriculum in Indonesia. Thus, we have to look at the comparison of the other countries that are actually implementing or implementing esports in the world. Yeah, the first one is coming from the Denmark, US, and UK. The implementation is has no significant negative impact. No significant negative impact on well-being. Challenges include inexperienced coaches and unfamiliarity with formal training. And then, on the other hand, in the Vietnam, British integrated curriculum model is actually used as a template for national policy development. So Vietnam is actually taking uh, the thing from US. And then the Australia and Singapore, it's still on the early stage and dynamic ecosystem with less formalized structure. So from these three literature review from Denmark, US, UK, Vietnam, and Australia, all of them are still on the early level of esports development that is actually embedded in the curriculum. And how about Indonesia? So Indonesia has already established a lot of um, foundation, a lot of institutions that is actually dealing with the esports development in Indonesia. The first one is PPESI, or Pengurus Besar Esports Indonesia in Bahasa Indonesia. It's a government body aims to develop, organize, and manage esports in the country. and the only official organization that is developed by the government that recognizes esports as sport of achievement. Under PPSC, there are two big private, yeah, just going to call as private Indonesia's foundations, esports foundation. The first one is Garuda Esports Academy. It is partnered with Muntun, the developer of Mobile Legends Bang Bang, and also EVOS Esports. And then the second one is Esports Academy ID that is founded in 2020. And the other fact is actually about approximately 1.32% of the school across Indonesia has esports activities. Yeah, but the important thing is 90% of those 182 are coming from high school level. So it's not coming from the was it the primary or secondary education, but most of them are coming from the high school level. Nah, has supported the use of esports in educational purposes. However, the SCDE, does not give a clear program and practices. What is meant by the esports in education, what is the exact and precise curriculum to be implemented in that education, and so forth. And then it makes the agents that is actually affected by all of these implementation, like the government, teachers, and students, they don't see the benefits of this implementation. And then the other thing that is actually important is there's no risk analysis towards the impact of support in this institution. For example, the well-being of the users or the agents, and all of them leads to various comments, especially from social media netizens in responses to the esports implemented in education. I'm just going to skip this part, I think, because it's been more or less the same with the previous slides. In May 2025, the SCDE declared to embed Mobile Legends Bank in primary and secondary school, in which it's quite oppositional to what has already been implemented. Yeah, most of them are coming from the high schools, and we are going to look the netizens' comments in those social media like the Facebook, Instagram, X, YouTube, and TikTok. How the netizen highlighting these programs, yeah, and we are these comments are also affected by the awareness of esports benefits, digital literacy, cultural aspect, identity from social media, from the netizens. Although, on the other hand, some researchers said that it has brought positive impact in education, but the HCD needs to identify and characterize the netizens' comments from promoting esports in sports groups. There are two purposes that are that we are going to look at the presentation. The first one is to identify the comments, especially the negative one. What are the comments of the negative ones? And then the second one is proposing practices that SCDI can adopt to facilitate the promotion of sport in schools. And the methods will be given by Almira. Almira, would you mind to explain what the methods? I'm going to continue with the result. Almira, yes,
Okay.
you can start talking about the method.
Can you hear
Yes,
my voice then?
yes, I can hear your voice clearly.
Okay, so we will talk about the method here. Then the method we already use is keenness analysis, so it is a part of corpus linguistic method. We see that keenness analysis is statistical method in corpus linguistic used to identify words that are unusual, frequent, and distinctive in particular text or a corpus compared to the other reference corpus. So over here we are going to have two corpus. So the first one is the target corpus and the second one is reference corpus. The target corpus we use Facebook comments and also Instagram, X, YouTube, and also TikTok, and we collected these comments from May to June 2025. And finally, we already have a data. It's about 2030 and 34 comments from those platform, and we collected this one into a target corpus. And then for the reference corpus, we use a Leipzig corpora. It is about 100,000 running word. And then next, Pak Andy. Okay, so this one is software we are going to use. We already use actually. So the first we call it as Ancon software. So as you can see here is we have the target corpus and also the reference corpus. And the display here, it is, we call it as a keyword. There are, for example, is game and then young, ga, and etc. Then we collect this one and classify this one into a particular sentiment. So the first one is positive sentiment and then negative sentiment, and the next one is neutral sentiment. Okay, next. Okay, so this one is the example. After we classify it into particular sentiment, then we try to figure out how is the then, so this one is the example of KWIC or concordance. Then the next one. Okay, here is the result. We find that only 4% of the netizen in Indonesia perceive sport as curricular development into something positive thing. Okay, so there are 73% they perceive this um, sport curricular development into something negative way. For example, is we have over here is most of them of the keyword are related with the mocking and also swear word over here. So what is the meaning of this keyword? So it is express sexual and anger and also mockery toward SCDA policy. Okay, yes, next point. Here is we try to figure out what is the concern of the Indonesian netizen over here. So the first concern is related with the skill development. So we have particular word over here, for example, is laziness and also stupid or blah blah blah, toxic, destroy and blah blah blah. So according to this comment, so Indonesian netizens see this program into a questionable program. So they have a questionable education values, and they see that how gaming is seen as a threat to children's character and discipline. Then the second one is we try to classify it into health and also well-being. So netizen concerned about addicted problems. So over here's the context you can see. So netizen mostly worry about addiction and also reduce the learning motivation of the student. So they worry about what if Mobile Legend become extracurricular, for example. What if they forget to learn another science subject, for example? What if they addict into playing a game, for example? So this one is mostly worried into Indonesian netizen. The third one, again, it is related with the health and also well-being. It is related with laziness. Okay, so netizens worry about if the games itself can reduce the learning motivation of the student. And the third one is related with the agent role, mostly talking about the teacher of Indonesian. So netizens try to highlight a teacher as a part of agent role in Indonesia. They criticize that the teacher are viewed as as the key challenge in turning game into meaningful educational practice. So they worried about the teacher itself, whether they are able or not to teach this game into something more educational values. Okay, the fourth one still, we still have a concern related with the agent rule. Over here is we have a government. So The government is criticized for the poor policy decision. So it's just because they have this development or this curriculum, but netizens think that there are more. What is that? A plan before this sport curriculum development implied for the student. And then the fourth one, still the concern is related with the students, of course, as the key word of this implementation. So the students are perceived as skeptical, believing that science will be prioritized and also digital literacy do not necessarily require STEM. So in Indonesia, the netizen think that science should be developed more, and these games or esport here is supposed to be later on, or maybe the next step for the educational system. So they worried about whether the student can do their job as to learn in a good ways or not. And the last one, it is related with implementation challenge. So it is related with the extracurricular itself. So this program is considered to require thinking. Again, so it is related with implementation. They think that there are a lot of challenges need to solved, and one of them is the extracurricular itself. They have to rethink how is that, and then who will be the teacher, and then what about the student, where the student will be able to have responsibility to have this extracurricular in a good way or not. For example, the netizen thinking about this one, about the implementation. Okay, then the next one,
Okay,
the
I'm just going
discussion
to
here will be
take over the
explained by
discussion,
Bangpi.
Almira. Yeah, thank you, Almira. Okay, I'm just going to continue with the discussion part. So this is one thing that makes the netizen comments about esports and also game in Indonesia is often seen as a negative thing. So in Indonesia, negative exposures are more viral compared to positive exposures in the media. The government say that esports is more or less the same like video games addiction. Indonesia always accuse video games as the culprit for moral deformities, especially for kids. And the government are trying to quote unquote ban several games due to several events. Yeah, say for example in 2019, since PUBG is seen as having a very negative effect to kids, so it is banned. No, it's not banned actually, but it's considered as threat, and uh, it is quote unquote almost banned in Aceh. Aceh is one country. Sorry, Aceh is actually one city in Indonesia. And then in 2025, the Minister of Education, no, the Minister of Education, Primary and Secondary Education, are trying to ban two games. The first one is Roblox, because of the case of the child molesters on Roblox in America. And then the second one is after the bombing. So there's a students bombing in one of the high schools in Jakarta, in which the bombing was conducted by one of the students. He made some sort of self-made bomb and bombed the school, and it has there's no casualties, but there are a lot of students who are hurt within that bombing. And again, the games, especially PUBG and so on, are being the culprit for that one. So the Prabowo is our president. Prabowo to limit online games following SMAN. SMAN is high school 72 bombing. The education minister, we've proposed it from the start. So from the very start, government has seen games the same as esports, the same as video game addiction, and it is so negative. Therefore, based on the findings that is explained by Almira, so we have already split or divided the classification of negative comments into three. The first one is the skills development, and then the second one is health and well-being, and then the third one is agent's role, and the fourth one is actually the implementation challenge. The skill developments more covering about the rejection of how it will improve the students' skills development, because as stated by Almira, the point of Indonesian education is not only embedding sport, but it's more on science and those kind of things. And then the second one is healthy health and well-being. The health and well-being are being represented as being addictive or lazy. So if they are playing games too much, especially if it's embedded in schools, it makes students are becoming more addicted and lazy, and it increases the students to escape the stress and isolate themselves, leading to anxiety. Laziness, on the other hand, reduces physical activities that affect student health, and longer addiction and laziness creates regular distraction and procrastination, which influence student academic performance. The netizens, our data, worried that sport lead to addiction and laziness. The third one is the agent's role. There are several agents that are embedded in this uh, research. The first one is the government, the teacher, and students. Government is accused of having less monitoring. It's usually happening in Indonesia. We have some sort of plan, we have some sort of events, but it lacks monitoring. So evaluation does not have a well-prepared program. On the other hand, the comments on teacher loads indicate netizen that teachers to employ MLBP as teaching tool, not as an sport. It is afraid that the teachers are less skillful compared to the students. This case, sports case. Okay, and then implementation challenge. Uh, the thing that is being afraid of is actually the SCDE has not provided a scheme in which Mobile Legends is proposed as an extracurricular. So it's still blur. It's still it has no specific plan and so on. Therefore, on our second research question, we propose some sort of thing that should be done by the SCDE. The first one is to develop a well-structured e-sport program. It consists of curriculum, learning outcome, aims, procedures, and time, which are measurable. The second one is promote the benefits of MLBB that is actually embedded in education institution. The third one is appoint influencers uh, to promote esports as an education for an educational purposes. The fourth one is to expand collaboration with various parties, including the developers, including the high schools, including the esports trainers, esport pro players, and so on. Therefore, based on our finding and discussion, we have concluded that negative comments are not commonly found in social media when MLBP is implemented as esports in school. It still needs further studies or more pilot studies that needs to be conducted in more urban areas, leading to more valid and reliable results. And the third one is we still need a lot of collaborations in conducting similar studies. Okay, I think that's all. These are all the references that we've made. And thank you. I hope that our presentation is not really confusing for you guys. Thank you and have a nice day. We'll return